we all have things buried deep.
For some of us, it's intentional. For others, it could be a survival tactic.
But in order for you to heal and grow into your purpose,
Into who you were truly meant to be, sometimes you gotta have those uncomfortable conversations.
man, it's time we unpack.
Welcome to another episode of Unpacked. I am Aaron Eason, aka Mr. Always Good, Never Bad.
And I'm Greg Figueroa, aka Mr. Felony Fit. Today we're gonna talk about something that it's not necessarily tangible, so we can't pull it out of the bag, but I think it's something that we all need to unpack, especially as men, in the climate that we live in the world today. And that is the value of a man. Not only the value of a man in terms of the expectations placed on him by society, but the value he puts on himself based on the comings and goings and the dealings that he deals with everyday society. You know, it's hard to establish your worth and get a good approximation of your potential in this world when you always seem as if things are stacked against you.
Facts.
And especially as a black man. You know, I'm not making this a race thing, but as a black man, I can only speak for the experiences I have. You know what I mean? And
We were talking about it earlier. Like when we come from the womb, parents are experiencing the idea of joy and fear at the same time when it comes to having a black child.
100%.
And more so a man than a woman, because when you set us up, you could do as good as you can, and we could do as good as we can, but we still have a lot of the chips stacked against us regardless.
Yeah, because there's a lot of generational trauma. There's a lot of deep rooted and deep seated oppression that is manifested today in, you know, the guise of a police department or court system. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not necessarily using those things as crutches or backdrops for male responsibility or what a man is supposed to bring to a household. You know, whether or not a man has made infractions of any kind in his past, his obligation to his household remains the same.
Copy.
You know, if you bring children into this world, if you take a wife, join into that union, you come with certain responsibilities, or you enter into an arrangement knowing that you have certain responsibilities that come with that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And oftentimes in society, men are marred because they don't meet those responsibilities that are in some way considered expectations.
No,
You
they
know,
are.
it's an expectation, but it's also a
because of the
responsibility.
word man. It's literally an expectation.
Well,
based on that reality.
Well, in that case, yeah. Looking at it like that, absolutely.
And then, see, the problem is, we don't all. You grew up in a house where you probably had a good example of a man, but you played out your own version of life to try and figure out who you were. You were trying to figure out who Greg was
from the gate.
Which is always a good thing.
And my parents will tell you that in stories that they might beat you down with and just tell you how I was when I was a kid. You know, I was always that inquisitive, curious, like looking for the next bit of trouble to be in.
I asked questions every chance I can get, because one, I didn't have a male figure.
Right.
And two, I didn't trust anybody. So when I asked questions, I questioned everything, but also was making sure that the people that I did trust were trying to give me more than no.
Right.
Because and this is
I'm first generation American from a West Indian family, and in West Indian culture, kids are not really taught to be asking why.
Yeah.
Like, you don't ask why.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying? You if your mother says something and you ask why, she's gonna report to your pops, and then he's gonna explain to you that why don't matter. You
right.
understand?
So and then here's where that devalues us as men with an imagination, or with the idea that we can figure things out by going and asking. We don't like asking for shit after a certain time.
Oh well, I mean, but that's a stigma that men have. I mean, it doesn't have to be a cultural thing.
No, it doesn't.
You could go back to those old Chevy Chase movies. Remember Nash when he was going on vacation, he refused to stop and ask for directions.
That's
You know what I'm saying?
and
Like, that's
a
that's
statement
the
of a man.
perfect
Yeah,
example of a
facts.
man. Like before GPS, a man would rather sit in the car with a map and figure out where he's going
Go off
before
faith and hope,
Yeah, that's it. You know what I mean? And that's just
hoping they right.
you know,
literally.
but it's because we are trying to live up to the expectation of being that leader. Like if you're driving the car, yeah, you're driving, but what are you doing? You're leading your family somewhere.
Yeah, you're taking.
And in
you're
order
taking
to
leadership role.
take on that responsibility, you're trusted. You know what I mean? And in order to it's hard for society to give men our due now because oftentimes we're not trusted, but we're not trusted because we're not capable, and we're not trusted because we're not willing. A lot of times we're trusted because we're judged off of things we did 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, we're not trusted because of that. Yeah,
You know what I mean? And it's like, oftentimes we talk about, the prison system and the recidivism rate and people going back to jail. How many people go back to jail, right?
yeah.
But we don't talk about the success stories enough. And we also don't talk about a lot of the reason why a lot of these men repeat those behaviors and go back into those situations. You know what I'm saying? There's a particular, again, expectation put on a man
Before you
that he should be a provider, that he should be a protector, that he should be a leader, that he should be the cornerstone of his family,
that's essentially why.
But now here's the caveat to that. When you're a black male who, let's say for whatever reason, got in trouble at 16, 17.
Or 18.
16, 17, 18. But and one thing I gotta stress is, and you know this, when I talk to kids, my nephew's a senior in high school, about to graduate, and you know that I've spoken to several high school football teams in my area that I grew up in. And the thing that I always stress to these kids is that there's an imaginary line between 17 and 18. Like when you go to sleep on the night of your 17th birthday turning 18, when you wake up the next morning, physically, you don't feel different.
But you're
you don't
a grown
look
ass
different.
man in the eyes of the law.
But your coaches can't save you. Your parents can't save you.
fact. No
Guidance
way.
counselors can't save you. Doesn't matter how good of an athlete you are. You are 18 years old now. So now, if you enter into that system, number one, God bless you. God help you. But number two, you're going to be trapped in a world where now you can't get out of. And you'll never get out of. And not to say you can't be a success story afterwards, but
That's
the fact,
gonna follow you for the rest of your
the
life.
fact of the matter is, it follows me for the rest of my life. And to get even more personal, I'll tell you, it follows you in ways that we don't always expect.
That's a fact.
When you come home from prison, the way I did, and the way I'm so proud to say to people, and the way I explain my story to people, the tenacity that I approached being released with and being able to get into society with, you know what I'm saying? You're met with certain roadblocks because you have a criminal record, right? Mm-hmm. So that's one thing, but it's kind of expected because it's told to you. It's told to you before you got in trouble to go to prison. It's told to you while you're in prison. It's told to you when you're coming home.
That's why you have a record.
But when you're in a situation like mine, see, mine is different now. And we can go into different areas of trauma and scarring, but there's a certain trauma attached with being associated with the court system. You know what I'm saying? At this age, at this juncture of my life, and despite doing everything right, I'm still marred by the things I did in my past, in my situation with my child, and you know that. And it's number one, a situation that first provided a lot of the energy for where I was last year this time. You know what I'm saying? And that's why we focus so much on mental health. That's why we focus so much on growth.
Yeah, I remember.
Because of that period that you kind of saw me through that. I ain't ashamed to say that. You saw me through that. I mean, you amongst other people, my village is strong, thank God. You know what I'm saying? But I was being met with those roadblocks when it comes to being a father. Like, I wasn't allowed to be a father based on a court's perception of who I am based on trouble that I got into prior to my son being conceived, prior to me knowing my son's mother.
So
like
you
that-
you were already in trouble
So-
before
so-
you decided to
but-
do something
but this is
with your
just-
life.
but this is just
something positive or
indicative-
something that would have allowed
Like
you to.
the chips are stacked against me.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, so if you give a guy a hard time getting a job at a bank because he went to jail for embezzlement, you
Yeah.
kind of understand.
You understand it. Understand.
You know?
Yes.
But if you don't allow a guy to be a father because he went to prison for whatever reason prior to being a father, especially prior to being a father, if you're a father already and you
Now to specify that you're not like a rapist or any of that, because that's the because
exactly, because what you go to jail for, but this is what I was getting at, because what you go to jail for and your nature of your character and who you were prior to those things all matter.
yeah, they
You know what I'm
always
saying? Like, I'm not discounting any of my behavior, whether it be criminal or not. You know what I'm saying? But as a young kid, you buy into the environment around you. You buy into what pop culture presents to us. And I fell victim. Like I tell you all the time.
Can you keep it stack? Is that really what happened to you, or were you chasing a person that you wanted to figure out?
Oh,
Like your environment
if
really.
if I could
did it
provide
really
if I could
influence
provide
you?
the comic
Or
relief,
were
you know how I'm coming. I am Clarence. Like I'm Clarence. If people remember 8 Mile, if y'all remember the movie 8 Mile, I am Clarence. You know what I'm saying? I'm Clarence. My parents, my mother, I'm proud of, is a proud black woman, very accomplished, a doctorate, several degrees. She's an English professor. My father is an executive in business. Like he's been in business his entire life, his entire career. And so I'm Clarence. You know, I had real good parents, and Clarence's parents got a real good marriage. I chose the shit that I did. And this is why too many times part of that perception that surrounds black men surrounds their lineage, you know, and that's not fair. That's not fair. My parents were judged because of my criminal activity. When my parents didn't condone that, they didn't present that to me as an example growing up. I made decisions and carried through with them.
Before you go further, legit, my mom had the same. My mom has such a hard time surviving the things me and my brother put her through because we didn't grow up with any lack. Like we
Right.
didn't have
No reason.
like, there's no real reason for us to be outside like we was outside.
Yeah.
Now, when I say outside, I wasn't outside. I operated in a way where when we touch back on it, I'll tell my story. I had to find value in myself to provide for somebody, and I did decide to do something that I didn't really see a problem with because I kind of thought I'd get away with
No,
it.
you was young. You was young, and that's
Yeah, I was young, but I also didn't make a mistake until I involved people. I will say I didn't have a problem doing the wrong thing based on the reality that I was trying to do the right thing.
You see,
Which is weird, but
No,
it's
not. It's
how
not.
a lot of people operate.
It's not weird. That's how everybody operates because you think the ends are going to justify the means.
Basically,
and
exactly.
everybody,
And that's how you always make the decision to keep going and going.
Let's be honest. Let's call it what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like 39 years old. You go in my car right now. You don't hear Young Thug. You hear Jay-Z. I grew up in that era where, good, right, or bad, you know, how was that saying? It said, you know, that's the influences we had. Those were the pop culture influences. So even if I didn't grow up in an element where me mirroring that behavior was necessary, that's what I wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? That's the avenue I chose to go down because it looked alluring. Fast money looks alluring.
It always does.
Always looks alluring.
Literally.
So anyway, let's fast forward. Let's fast forward.
Okay.
Because I don't want to. While I will get more transparent, and we'll go into that as these episodes build, I don't want to make this about that. What I want to make this about is the
process of us becoming
process
the
of
valuable person that we feel like
living up to the expectation of your value.
Yes.
That's the best way to say it. Living up to the expectation of your value.
Okay.
Like, you know, and then from that, estimating your worth as a man. You know, it's hard to feel confident as a man when you can't provide You know what I'm saying? And that's why you deal with so many men that cut off their nose to spite their face. They
Because
argue and they
yeah.
divorce their wives because their wife make more money. It's just a hard pill to swallow
It
for
is,
some
it is,
men
it is.
to not be that picturesque example of what a man is supposed to
look
be.
like in the household.
You understand?
I
what I'm
also
saying? And
think
then-
it's because
but the what I'm trying to stress is the reasons for that are not always that man's lack of ambition, that man's lack of
was gonna
pride,
say.
or that man's lack of willingness to step out there and do
society's
that.
inability to give us a chance to uphold our value.
I mean,
That's literally
when
the case.
When your hands are tied behind your back,
For
it's
example.
hard to it's hard to
For
fight
example,
for yourself.
Amazon supposedly hires everyone, right?
Right.
Everyone.
That's what they say.
Everyone.
It's what the ads say.
Shoot. Come pandemic, I'm finding myself making money passively, but I'm sitting duck. I'm not comfortable not doing it. You know me. Like I can't
Right.
sit
So add another fucking. If you could make a couple extra dollars,
literally.
do it.
But it was just about being
Productive.
man. No, because I was in a house where someone was making money, going to work every day, and I just felt like a boy in a house.
Wow.
Like,
Yeah.
like I was bringing in money, but it's like I like working. I like working towards something, building something. And I wasn't thinking too creatively at the time. I was just thinking, like, I need to do something with my actual physical body.
My time,
Literally.
Yeah,
So I go and fill
100%.
out an application, think, all right, cool, this is smooth.
Pardon me.
I'm gonna do a couple hours, do an overnight situation, or whatever the case. Everything goes through. My background check comes back. And my background check was clearly like I'm a convicted felon. Oh, we can't hire you. I didn't understand it because I know felons that work at
Yeah.
Amazon.
Right.
So I'm sitting there saying, is it a me thing? Like, is this
And it's hard to build confidence and to want to go forward when you're met with these roadblocks time after
dude, this
time
is
again.
almost
So
13,
too many-
14 years later,
But
bro.
here's what happens. Here's the sad reality, right? Here's the sad reality. People I know, and I'm a success story now, but I'm not an overnight success story.
Nah.
Because I came home from prison. I came home from prison one time, and I worked, and I toiled, and I worked in a labor job where I wasn't getting paid what I thought I was worth, but I was making an honest wage. You understand? So, part of me felt pride about that, But then, fast forward, when you get through that probationary period in most companies, and you start to make whatever the wage is that will be your wage going forward after that, whatever period. I remember my first paycheck. And I remember the amount of overtime that I worked, and I remember what I was expecting to receive because I did this math in my head, and maybe I set myself up for failure in that case, but I remember what I was expecting to receive. And I didn't receive that. So now I was at an impasse, right? Because now I can buy into what I've always been taught and what I've always heard, in terms of work hard, earn your keep, your time will come, right? Or I can revert to something
Back
that
you already knew.
I already knew would reap multitude of dividends in comparison to what I just got paid for this 60 hours of work. You know what I'm saying? So now ignorance sake, immaturity, call it what you will, I make the decision to go back down that path. So I'm not an overnight success story, but what has to be said is that you're not taught in that time of rehabilitation when a person is incarcerated. They're not rehabilitated because nobody's teaching them their worth.
I was gonna say
Nobody's
you don't
teaching
feel your
them something.
incarceration until you come home.
I mean, or no, you feel it.
No, you know what I mean.
You
by,
feel the
like, in terms-
separation.
Yeah, well, so
but
when I
you
say
don't feel, you don't. It's
talking about the ability to now be free. You don't feel free until you find out how to be free.
Let me tell you
In
something.
the society that they have now limited you to doing X, Y, and Z.
Let me tell you something. Although I always say I have everything in life right now that I prayed for in those cells, I will tell you this. There's not a day that goes by that I feel free, and that's not something stigmatic of a black man in the United States. That's something stigmatic of a black man in the United States whom, if you run my license plate, you feel the right to and will be legally justified if you violate the rights that seemingly I don't have anymore, even though I paid my debt to society.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? So I'll never really be free. You know what I'm saying? Because and this is what I'm getting at, and even what I was just saying with my son, I'm still being convicted every day. I'm dealing with a new conviction. Every time I step into a court, I'm dealing with a new conviction because somebody is still judging me off of something that I did years ago.
So what's crazy is how value works in our own heads. Like, you walk through these situations and you realize I'm still paying for consequences of something that I did with a mindset that had no intentions to like create a roadblock for what I'm going through right now. Like,
Right.
had I known I was going to be at this stage in my life, like I know for sure I wouldn't have done that. And it's like, that's how consequences work. Hold on, that's how consequences work. But then you got to think about it, like we get to experience this life, right? And we don't know how bad our decisions were until we run into these situations. Right. You went to jail, right? You survived that. So now you're here, you're at this stage. So now you're like,
Went to prison. There's a difference.
I'm sorry.
No, but I just because too often. I'm not doing that for you. I'm doing that for our listeners because too often there's a misconception about the realities of the two.
Got you.
And the realities of the two are two totally different worlds.
Copy.
So, it was in numerous prisons, and some of them are better reputations than others. You know what I'm saying? And I was in situations in there for my own doing or not. I was put in situations in there that fucked me up in ways that I didn't know fucked me up until I came home.
Exactly. So there's many versions of consequences you got to experience in that reality. So now it's like, all right, so how do you build up?
I apologize because I didn't see that point that you were making prior to. That's why I tried to break it down more.
It's cool. It's cool. So, so like that's what I mean. And you had your own version of it, right? Mine, though, not attached to prison. I'm literally walking around with a conviction, and trying to operate like I operated before I was convicted.
Well, yeah,
literally trying to figure out because I have the freedom to fill out that.
The reality is you have no choice, and the reality is every time we operate as if those convictions weren't there, and we operate from a sense of pride in that we served our debt, pride in that we are now doing what we're supposed to do, right?
Yeah, because I've been flying straight to
right.
2008.
But what we're really doing though. What we're really doing is making ourselves vulnerable to give someone an opportunity to throw us back down because of something we've already been thrown down for. And that's just
true, because when I filled out that application.
And that's ultimately what happens no matter the situation. And this is too often times the case, not only from a racial perspective when it comes to people being fathers. I know too many people dealing with the court system, especially the court system in New York. And if this platform grows the way I would like to, I'm gonna shine a light on this shit because it's not right.
No, I feel
you understand what I'm saying? It's not right. Like what's happening is not right.
So let's all right, fine, because that's pretty much our argument after a while. Like, yo, like Amazon, please explain to me how you think that my conviction from that long ago is gonna like what is
right? The argument is they think it establishes character. But they think that a criminal conviction establishes the character of the applicant. But what they're failing to realize two things. One, a person's character at 17 is not a person's character at 27.
No one
That's
is.
number one. That's number one. But number two, if you're hiding behind a system that you created, if you're hiding behind that system, then you have to adhere to what you said that system will produce. And you said that system produces rehabilitated people when they
That's what
enter
prison's supposed
the
to be.
justice system.
Yeah.
So
Time
you
out
go to
to
prison
help
to
you get back to-
rehabilitate.
Yeah.
But here's what they do. They stripped prison over the years of all the resources necessary to educate yourself, all the resources necessary to build yourself up physically, because a lot of the prisons have taken out, the weights and what so on and so forth, and intramural sports, and they hide behind funding. But at the end of the day, what's more important to you? Getting this criminal element off the street for 5 years and just letting him sit dormant where he could stew in his own anger, his own
creating
anguish.
An opportunity for a person to really produce in this
Something
society.
great. Yeah, understood. So
Now, let me ask you a question.
It doesn't pay for them to create that. It doesn't pay for them to create a system
So
where you can come home.
how did you figure this out then? Because clearly,
I'm gonna tell you. I'll be honest. I figured it out simply because I have what a lot of people don't, and that is a very, very strong, attentive, hands-on village. You know what I'm saying? They say it take a village to raise a child, but in West Indian culture, that village don't just leave when you become an adult. You dig?
That's
Like
a fact.
when in that West Indian culture, that village remains, and that village carries you even through. And I'm gonna take it there because it's so pertinent. That village carries you even through those times when they can't hold you up financially and they can't hold you up, verbally in terms of phone calls and letters and whatnot.
Just knowing that they're there.
But they're just so strong in prayer. They're so strong in prayer that it's like that
So what about
moves
you though?
through that time.
What about you though? Because hear me out. Like that's a lot of people have villages. A lot of people got
Right.
homies, family, woman. That don't stop them from being their own.
But this is part of the
So
conversation.
what did you do to figure out how to fly straight?
Well,
you
see, it's not so much about flying straight, and it's not so much about figuring it out either. You know what I'm saying? My pops once told me something that was so fly. Like my pops got a way of like just very subtly telling you about yourself and killing your shit. You know what I'm saying? And my pops told me one time, I said to him, this is while I was going through the court proceedings before I went back to prison the second time. And I told him, I said one day I was just so vexed. I said to him, yo, you don't understand how hard, it's hard out here. My pops told me at the time, he was like, I'm 65 years old, never been arrested in my life. It's not that hard. You know what I'm saying? And it's a fact because so to answer your question, how did I figure it out?
Yeah. How did you figure it out?
Simply stop doing the bullshit. Because I'm gonna tell you like a lot of niggas won't tell you. I made the choices I made, and I consciously left the crib to go do the shit that I was doing. So when you consciously leave the crib with a different mentality, you're gonna consciously leave the crib and find yourself around different company.
Yeah,
because when I was selling work, I will find myself either in the presence of niggas selling me work or niggas buying work. And guess what? Both of those two people, they gonna end up in jail too. You know what I'm saying? But when you come home and you working out, you find yourself hanging out with niggas who go to the gym. Last time I was in the gym and the FBI kicked in the door, I can't remember. It never happened. You dig? But I say that to say it's a matter, I realize that it's how I spend my time, who I spend my time with, and what my goals are long term. Because in order to want to shoulder that responsibility, because like I said, I prayed for everything I have now.
But you're still talking about your village. Now what I'm asking you is,
I'm not talking about
well,
my
you
village.
said so we should run these.
No.
In the sense of what I mean by
let me get to the point what I'm making though. In order to feel how I felt, you have to feel a certain confidence, and you want to.
That's what I was asking. Where did you find this
You
value
want to
and
shoulder
confidence?
that responsibility, and what I'm saying to you is, you find that confidence and that value in making a personal decision to live up to the best of the expectations that people put on you, and the people that put those good expectations on you. That's your mother. That's your sister. At least my mother, my older sister, my wife. You know what I'm saying? So when you want to live up to those values and you want to live up to that worth and that expectation of you, rather than what society has marred you and made you because of who they want you to be for their bottom line for whatever reason, that's when the tide starts to turn. And you start to approach things less from an egotistical and angry, prideful way, and you tend to look at things from a way like, okay, I'm gonna be knocked down 1,000 times. However, the last 1,000 times I was knocked down, these people have proven to me that they are gonna cushion the fall. So while they know and I know that I'm out to do the right thing, we all understand that there's gonna be roadblocks. And there's gonna be times when I feel less than, and I was lucky and I was blessed to have that village to lean on.
Okay.
I had that village to go to in them times when I was filling out applications and niggas wasn't fucking with me because I had felonies. You know, I had that village to lean on when they start airing me out for child support for a kid I can't see. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm still holding it up.
So you're figuring out how to sustain this value and self-love in the process. Because, like, look, they're putting you
The way you
through.
sustain value and self-love is to appreciate what you've been given.
Okay.
And to love those around you. Because love, just like everything else, is contagious, bro.
That's a
it's
fact.
Contagious. And I'm in a situation where I'm not gonna put my lady's business out there, but my lady makes a substantial amount of money. Let's say that. You know what I'm saying? And it'll be very easy for a woman to say, well, I make X, Y, and Z. And you make X, Y, and Z, but you got responsibilities to A, B, and C that was around here way before I ever came into your picture. And you're not bringing in half. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm blessed to have a situation where people understand the hard work that I put in and that I'm willing to put in. You know what I'm saying? So I've embraced the responsibility, whereas some people, and this doesn't make me any better than them, some people aren't able to embrace that responsibility.
Yeah, I think it's an accountability
because they come
thing.
home and they come home to situations that it got to be J.G. Wentworth. I need my money now. I can't wait on 10 people to slam the door in my face because I got 2-3 kids already. You know what I'm saying? So it perpetuates the stereotype by creating an environment that these men completely always devalue themselves and never truly know their worth because they could never live up to expectations that were stacked against them to begin with.
Well, let's all right. So let's paint another picture then. What was your expectation of yourself? And I'm gonna start. I want to kind of give a feedback on how this same. I had to experience the same thing in a different way, and I don't have the same like issues that you have to this day with the consequences, but they follow me everywhere I go too. I grew up in a house where let's stop
calling the trickle down effect of these things consequences though, for both of us though.
When I say consequences,
because I mean,
well,
I don't want to be victim.
What does it mean?
I don't want to sound like victims here, but
no.
They're unfair realities. They're not necessarily consequences.
Okay.
A consequence of an action is something that comes as a direct result of that action.
Well, we're basing it off how the law has created
Well, this is what I'm saying. It's
stipulation
not
of how you.
But it's not a consequence. It's an unfair reality because there's no law that stipulates you can't be a father because you have a criminal record.
Reality. That's what I'm trying to say.
I mean, as a black man in this country, or as a man and a father in the court system, because there's two different factions I'm talking about. You have to just be as stellar of an example as you possibly can. And I'm telling you, that's not something that's not easy to do. For years I fought against it. It wasn't easy.
No, I agree.
It's easy.
I agree.
It's very easy.
I think it's so
very
true.
Easy.
But like, for example, like you said, your environment. Like my cousins were in and out of prison my entire life. My older brother, by the time he was 18, he did his first bid. I've only seen my brother out every time he did a bid. I've probably seen my brother since He was 18. I was 15 years old. I've probably seen him 5 times.
Well,
I've never chilled with my brother. No, this is who.
I know
these are
guys
the
who got
people
30
that
years under their belt. They never did longer than 5 years at a time. Like this is what I'm saying. They got 30 years in the prison system, but they never did more than a 5-year bit.
No, my
Like,
brother's doing a stretch now.
His entire life is my point.
No, he's in prison now. He's doing a stretch, but he's been doing stretches. But my point is, I did not have an example of the opposite, right? I had to figure out who I wanted to be through all the bad examples. And I also was a hard-headed kid.
But having the bad examples is having an example of the
right,
opposite.
which is funny because one day I had to tell my brother I appreciate him. I had to tell him I appreciate him for giving me a role.
I tell my nephew the same thing all the time. Like, yo, you got it so easy because you got uncles and you got a father who are active in your life. You've witnessed niggas that went to jail. You've witnessed niggas that went to college. You've witnessed niggas that got killed. And you were old enough to see and to witness not only their personalities, but their characters, and to get a little taste of what they was into. Now you can make an informed decision as to what road you want to go down. He's in a privileged position.
Yeah, but that's him. We're referring to.
But no.
My experience was I had no way.
I'm saying the bad examples were the good examples.
Yeah,
because
they were.
You could emulate that action, or you could not.
That is true, right? But then there's you becoming a good example based on just not doing bad. That's not a reality. That's like you still trying to figure out what to do. There's so many other things to do when
you're not doing bad, good happens, and that's just the reality.
That is I wasn't a good kid. Let's start there, because in my opinion, like this, it was just I'm not doing what my brother did. So like I found another lane, but I also understood
the difference between good kids and kids that ain't get caught. You know, a lot of kids. I've been in prison with a lot of good kids. I know a lot of good kids that went to jail. I know a lot of good kids that's in jail now that'll never be out of jail. However, they got caught. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know a lot of scumbags that is out here running around the street, making babies, not taking care of them, still breaking the law to this day. They just ain't get caught. So, you know, it's a difference. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a difference. Like
Well, what I'm saying is, I had to find value somewhere. And I found it in not wanting to do something, but I still ended up doing it. And it's not because of what I saw or what I was around. I wasn't convicted by it. What I was convicted by trying to be a man. When I first got into trouble, it was because I was trying to create a life for me and my girl and her son. And I took on a responsibility that I did not have any idea about. And so I was doing
everything. Any idea, but you had no business.
We went down this road.
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you every time you tell me.
That's not the point. I'm telling.
Not because
I'm
letting you unpack it. But before I let another 18-year-old or 17-year-old pack this shit into his bag, I'm gonna let him know.
So first of all, that's
a bad idea.
Because that's not entirely.
That baby ain't yours.
It's not entirely
let
true.
Her do what she gotta do.
That's not entirely true, because that doesn't. You're not gonna put that energy out there that someone should not fall in love with somebody that has a kid and take on the responsibility.
I am gonna put that energy out there. That person's 18
because
years old.
let's be clear.
Because there's no. I said this to my wife the other night.
So what are you saying? That 18-year-old girl should go without a relationship with a man that can love her and treat her right?
I'm telling
because he doesn't have the wherewithal to become a man.
Can I tell my theory?
I'm asking the question.
This is my theory, and it's gonna sound funny, but I'm being dead serious. There is no stupider person on the face of the earth. There's no dumber person on the earth than an 18-year-old, and I'm going to tell you why.
Okay, 18-year-old.
I'm going to tell you why.
18-year-old.
I'm going to an 18-year-old period, and I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
Because an 18-year-old will run around beating their chest, telling you they're an adult. When you've been an adult, because you're 18, you've been an adult for less than 365 days. You have no data on what comes with adulthood. There is no more unintelligent individual walking the face of the earth than someone who's 18 years old specifically, because you run around thinking because you're 18 you can now defy your parents. You can now take on the reality of another woman's child and be a parent. And I'm not
that is not how my mind
I'm not convicted. It did at that time.
No, first of all, stop telling my story in that way.
I'm not telling you a story in that way. I'm telling
you how it happened is
I can't. No.
Happen
every time.
No. What I'm saying is when I decided to do that, I didn't have the feedback of a village. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Like I operated in a way where I was trying to figure out what kind of man I was going to be based on everything that I didn't know. I was chasing information. I was chasing opportunities to understand what a man looks like. I was just telling someone the other day, like, married men don't chill with single men. Good men are not around men that are trying to figure out how to be good. They're around other good. No, what I'm saying is,
not every single man is a man that's trying to figure out how to be good, though.
You're playing semantics. I'm being serious. Like, in reality, think about it. How many single men do you chill with intentionally?
I mean, because of my situation, and if this is the point you're making, I stand corrected. But because of my situation, I don't chill with anyone.
Which is my point.
Single man or couple.
And especially where we come from. Like now we're trying to make decisions that are mirroring the man we want to be, right?
I'm in a privilege because I know a lot of niggas in relationships that still chill with niggas. But I'm in a privileged position, though. I'm in a different kind of position because I actually like my wife. Like, I actually like chilling with my chick. I have the most fun when I'm with my chick.
But you're only proving my point. A lot of the men that are figuring out how to be men, that are doing manly shit, that are putting themselves in positions to hold themselves accountable, create opportunities for responsibility in ways where they're being a man in every which way. They're not surrounding themselves by men that haven't been. Like, as a young age, I couldn't get around people that were trying to do what I was doing. Right or wrong, I was doing it. It was happening. I made the decision, right or wrong. So now I'm making all the wrong decisions to figure out this experience. Based on my age, but also because I was trying to do right by.
But that's what I'm saying. Based on the fact that you thought you were making a right decision.
Well,
so everything else, like if it was wrong and you didn't know it was wrong unintentionally, everything else was a product of that was wrong too. Does that make sense? Like if you unintentionally do wrong, I'm asking now.
No, I get what you're saying. But I don't think that I was trying to do wrong by being in that relationship.
No, I said unintentionally. I didn't.
Yeah,
You weren't even doing wrong. You were just unintentionally shouldering an amount of responsibility.
Right. I'll go down that road. So because of that, I made very poor decisions.
Right.
Because I wasn't given any feedback on how to be in that role. And I wanted so much to be a good man, to grow up and be an adult. Like, yeah, you're right. I'll be honest with you. Ever since I was 12 years old, I wanted to be an adult. I didn't want to be associated with my peers. I thought differently. I moved differently. Right. My intent to be somebody was real. Like, I really wanted to do something in this world. And it was really about getting money. It was really about having all the money in the world. Right. It's about $1. I remember my boy used to tell me all the time, yo, bro, all you care about is money. It's like, damn, I hate that you see it that way. Because the reality is... That's the fact. Yeah, but you don't know what I have to do to get it. You don't know how many lines I got to stay in between just to make sure I'm flourishing in this particular life that I'm living because of the things I did wrong, because of the fact that I'm black, because of the fact that I understand and experience so much that I just know that if I just stick to the goal, I can probably survive and live the lifestyle I want to live. So I don't know what you've been raised on, but it's not so much about money. It's about making sure that I can live the life that I said I want to live, regardless of the things that have been stacked against me. Yeah. Like, I have to keep the mindset of a man that's chasing or not chasing, but stays ambitious and passionate about something. Because, you said, like,
I guess also too, if that is. Because everybody's mentality is different, so I'm not discounting it. But I guess you also, too, have to evaluate what each man wants as an individual. Because some niggas, like I know for myself, like I was running around doing things I shouldn't have done. I was motivated by things that ain't motivate other niggas. Some other niggas ain't care about sneakers.
Thanks.
Some other niggas ain't care about jeans. You know, I'm running around here selling drugs, spending everything I got buying clothes when some people, that wasn't a priority for them. They ain't give a shit. You know, wear the same pair of jeans 3 days in a row, not care less, and not be received any less by anybody, and we would have the same peer group. It's about
what you value.
What fuels us to value the things we value.
Yeah, facts.
Because some niggas get their eyes stretched based on other people's proceeds, and they don't know what them people went through to get them proceeds.
Which is my point. I work hard for everything that I've attained, right? And I've stopped creating an excuse to spend my money on stupid shit because of the hard work. But how I operate to gain more, to get more, isn't based on the dollar. it's based on the value I set for myself. I'm worth more than what I get. So I keep trying to seek that dollar. I keep trying to seek that access, that value that I feel like every time, like when that happened with the
Is it
Amazon, it hurt, bro. It hurt to now be seen as someone that is incapable
but
to work
one
somewhere.
thing-
No, like for real. Like my confidence, I was talking to my girl at the time, and she was like, yo, you just need to get it expunged. I was just like, yo, but like, why is that the response to something that
Well, here's the thing.
that doesn't mirror who I am? So if I get it expunged, now I'm okay to get the job?
Right.
Like,
Well, one thing that I take away from what you say and from what I'm saying is that where a man finds his value is such a personal part of the journey. Like where you find your value is such a personal part of the journey. Because some people don't necessarily need this to feel like that. You know what I'm saying? They don't need to
No, I
have
understand that.
certain things to feel a certain way. But I think that along the line, and just to bring things full circle and about a man's worth and his value, I think along the line, a man starts to align himself with, like you always say, the man he wants to become.
yeah, we're always in a state of becoming.
So when you align yourself with the man you want to become, certain behaviors,
You start to
certain
be
environments,
you start to
certain
be conscious of everything, man.
they don't necessarily break off from you, but they start to be put on a list, and they're not very high on that list of priorities.
When you want to grow, you
start
lose
to
things.
experience your worth and your value as a man in this culture when you could take on those responsibilities and you could sleep at night and you could wake up in the morning knowing that you have done what is necessary for yourself and for your household to be nourished, to be safe, and to be a unit, a whole unit. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that doesn't have to mean you have a wife or significant other. And I'm just talking about
Creating the life that you
creating your village.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like that's where a man's gonna find his value. Because when you create that strong village, now the things that are gonna be thrust upon you and expected of you is never gonna be something that's gonna be to your detriment. You know what I'm saying? Like when your village is truly for you and you truly for them, like you would never call me up and say, yo, G, I gotta play on a lick. Let's go do this. Cause you know what I've been through. So,
Yeah.
So you part of my village, so you wouldn't put me back in a situation
that would create
hinder
a
the
detriment
growth
to your
that I'm,
future,
you know what I'm saying?
And the future of your child, and the future of just whatever. And it's so
about
crazy
a
you
man
say that.
estimating where he finds his value and then finding his worth among that.
So like,
You know what I'm saying?
a lot of times we hold on to relationships and things that are nostalgic or just kind of like feel comfortable, and it be the things that you gotta let go of that are barring you from that next level. And understanding your value means that you though you don't feel comfortable, though you don't understand how to do it all the time, but letting go of shit that does not fit. Like making shit fit just because you get a call from a friend or I gotta play for you. And just making sure it fits because it's happening in a time where it's cool, it's smooth, whatever. It's literally steering you away from where you want to go. And a lot of times
that's also a topic we could hit on another day. Letting go of shit.
Yeah.
Because I mean, unpacking the bag is letting go of shit. But I mean, like picking battles, like what.
You know, I
to
swear,
really hold
I
on
swear
to
that
and
was
what to be fueled
That's
by.
been my issue my entire
You know what I'm
life. I
saying?
cared too much about a lot of
You know
shit.
what I'm saying? So many
gave
times
too
we don't
many
know how
fucks.
to release. Like,
Yeah.
not everything gotta matter. You dig?
Yeah, and I'm honestly like I had a back and forth with someone the other day, and I just realized like I know that I cannot get more out of this situation by going harder, and I know the harder is just me going down a road where I'm not going to be happy with myself at the end of the day.
Right.
So I have to now I have to look at it this way. You put yourself in this situation that have to even go back and forth. and you didn't need to.
Right.
So you made the first mistake by creating this environment for yourself to be in a conversation with someone that doesn't understand you, that doesn't want to talk to you where you're at, or vice versa. So now you got an option. You could keep going down this road and go down it to lead to the worst of the worst, or you can accept that you made the mistake and that this is your fault and start looking at everything that way so that you don't have to go into it bearing the consequences of a dumb decision, picking a wrong battle. And honestly, like I used to literally want smoke with everything because it didn't matter to me to have a conversation on an intellectual level.
And when you want smoke with everything, unfortunately for us, because I was the same way for a long time, when you want smoke with everything, especially, unfortunately for us, for a multitude of reasons, but mainly because, I mean, perceptually, the scariest thing in society is the angry black man. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you the angry black man that's bald headed with tattoos or you got muscles, because now you are the stereotype.
That's a
you know what I'm
fact.
saying? Now you are the stereotype.
That's a fact.
So picking the battles and giving the energy to the things that need energy.
But how did you figure that out? Like for real, because
trial and error. Because you can only bang your head into the wall but so many times.
Yeah, but we in our freaking late 30s,
yeah,
bro.
No, well, listen, it happens for everybody at a different time. I'm keeping it a stack.
No, I know.
Niggas in their late 40s that still ain't figured it out.
I think
you dig? Like it's just a matter of how many. Like, listen, it's the same thing. Like, just because you and I ain't addicted to fucking heroin ain't the same. It's not that we not dealing with the same thing. You gotta, when you want shit in your life to change, you gotta decide that you tired of that shit being the same way.
So your mentality has to grow.
It has to, because, listen, I'm faced with a choice, right? Walking around with the marks on my jacket that I got, right? It's easy. Like I got niggas on 157 right now up the block from here. That's my peoples. They outside all day, every day. I could go out there every single day. I could leave my house and I could go out there every day and know rain, sleet, or snow, they are there. You know what I'm saying? But when you make a conscious decision that I don't want certain results no more, and I banged my head into this wall and got the same results 10 times, but every time I stay in my crib, I never got to worry about nothing. You know what I'm saying? You have to make it comes to the point where you make a conscious decision that you're tired of the same results happening over and over, and you're willing to try something different. And that doesn't mean, nigga, you've been selling crack for the past 10 years, you keep going to jail. When you come home, now you should start selling heroin. That's not the kind of change I'm talking about. I'm talking about really delving into who you are.
Right. So,
into what you want.
So that's what I'm talking about. A lot of people have not figured out their purpose. And so they kind of like play the victim role the whole time until it's like,
until you figure out your purpose. It's your duty, it's your responsibility to yourself.
Yeah.
To make sure that you here every day though. You know what I'm saying? In order to find that purpose, it's
right.
your obligation to yourself to make sure you are here every day.
And how do you do that? By avoiding the shit that causes you not to be here.
By making the decisions that you know you should make. You know, and I say that and I stress that because so oftentimes niggas ain't gonna take. Listen, you go to jail, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but I don't give a fuck. I say what the hell I want. Jail, for everybody in jail innocent. Nobody in jail did shit. Everybody taking free this one, free that one. Some niggas did some shit. Some niggas got railroaded in the courthouse. Some niggas actually did some shit. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you gotta consciously stop doing the shit that keeps you from living up to your expectations of yourself, and the values that your village and the worth that your village places upon you.
I think that's what happened with me. I set an expectation of myself. I literally had to stop, like, using. So I pointed the finger a large part of my life because I was missing so much shit. Like, I was missing so much, and I was able to kind of keep blaming those things that I was missing. But once I became conscious of the reality that something was missing, I knew I had to do my homework, the due diligence to fill that gap.
To fill that void.
Right.
Yeah.
And then once I started to realize, oh, I can do this. I don't have to keep asking questions and hearing no. I can figure this out on my own. And not so much literally on my own, but like when you hear no,
I wish so many more people had that mentality.
but all right, so
where
I'm
they
gonna
could
tell
be
you,
a self-starter and understand they don't need somebody to give them a shot.
you know what
they
it
can
is
create
though?
a lane.
When you're the type of person that wants to know something, when you're the type of person, like for example, like if let's just say I told my mom, I wanted to get into investing at 14, 15. I had this idea and, it might have been drugs, right? Let's just say. I was going to buy something and sell it. She was like, no, you can't do that. And all I'm left with is no. How do I operate as a kid? And this is what I had issues with my entire childhood. How do I operate with no when I want an answer? So guess what? I figured out the wrong way because I didn't know what no was being no to me for. Why are you knowing me? Like, tell me what's. And then, so I had a rule in my life. For anyone I ever talk to or raise or give information to, I'm not gonna give you one answer. I'm gonna give you two answers. No, but you can do this. No, but talk to this person. They might have more information for you.
No,
but
why?
Or no, but here's what you should do.
Or here's
no,
why.
Yeah, or here's why. Because I'm gonna tell you something.
When you grow up, and I just to add to what you're saying, and I know the producer can identify. When you grow up in a West Indian household, bro, like you're trained, you're programmed from a very young age.
Yeah, bro.
And you don't ask why. You do not ask why.
You want to know why?
And
because it's more work for the parent to
no,
that's the truth.
But
they are doing their job already. Why are you asking me why you can't this? I've already done my job.
Understand?
That's pretty much where that comes from.
Understood. But here's where it hinders us. It hinders our growth, because if you give a child a command without an explanation, every time he reaches that impasse in life, he's gonna be guessing what he has to do and second guessing what he should do,
and limiting the confidence and assurance of being able to make those decisions.
No one's ever explained to him, this is why you should do this like this. Instead of being told, if you don't, there'll be consequences. Like, that's okay, there'll be consequences, but you can't spank a curious kid into submission. He's gonna always be curious.
Yeah.
That's a personality trait.
I think
curious people are curious. They're not going to stop being curious because they got punished. They're just going to find different ways to explore their curiosity.
That's where I think this falls into full circle. We decided to create that energy around, so if I'm not clearly built to be a drug dealer or an embezzler or this, that, and the third, what am I built to do? Like, where does my presence on this earth provide purpose? And so I started to ask those questions as I delved into things that I was already able and capable of doing. And I started to really build on that man and build on the spaces God has provided for me. I literally started, when I got out of prison, like the only job that I could get was as a janitor. Bro, I own a company that hires them now. I work in a commercial field where I'm able to run that. So for the last 15 years, I've been nurturing my ability to build a business out of something I'm not passionate about, but I've always been passionate about being an owner. Being an entrepreneur. Yeah. And it was, look.
Found a lane. I mean, that's what.
Yeah, but you know what's crazy? God was like, yo, I got you, but you got to go through this, bro.
Of course.
And it was like so much. I feel like a lot, I use Diddy as an example because of the way his career has been publicized. But when you surrender to the talent, skill, and ability that you're given as a man, as a person, God takes that ability for that discipline you've created for yourself to give him his skill, the talent he's blessed you with, and he multiplies it. So a lot of times where you think that I don't feel confident, that's where that lack comes from, where you're not giving God what he put you on this earth to do. He limits you to absolutely nothing. He takes it away from you. And a lot of times people don't realize once you surrender that and you find yourself living in your purpose, you will end up doing way more than that one thing. Right. And I think that's where we're at right now, like trying to all right, so I've surrendered to this thing that you've given me, this blessing in life.
We surrendered, but we still got
a lot.
I speak for myself only because yes, I surrendered, but I still look for when. So it's like you surrender, but you still haven't learned the patience.
Right.
You still haven't learned. Like for me, I'm just speaking for
But
myself.
so
Like-
it's crazy though because we understand though now.
Right. So
But
now,
like
but
before
that's
there was
where the
so
growth-
much.
That's
There was
where
so
the growth
much.
comes in. That's where the growth comes in because now we've matured to the level to know, like, okay, I'm not as patient as I can be yet. So the blessings ain't all there yet, but they coming because I'm working on it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like when you know, like I told a client not too long ago, he was doing an imam, and I put the clock in front of him, and just you know how I talk my shit. I just said to him, I said, you're giving a really big privilege right now that not a lot of people in life have because you know exactly how much time you have. And that shit blew his mind. He stopped and he said, yo, you should be a life coach. And I said, why the hell you say that? He said,
what we
because
do, bro.
He said
That's
that
what we do.
analogy was crazy.
That's what we do.
Because when you're doing an imam in the gym, bro, you know you got 8 minutes. You got 8 minutes. So now, you know, just to bring things a little full circle, but, you know, incorporate what we do, like you got 8 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at any of the nicest sculptures in the world, cast iron shit, that's the strongest shit in the world, and that shit forged in fire. You gotta go through the bullshit. Like when a blacksmith makes shit like that and a sculptor makes shit like that, that shit be boiling hot, beaming red. You gotta go through that bullshit to figure yourself out, to figure your value out, to figure your worth out. And then you have to realize that even when you figure it out, now there's steps, patience. You know what I'm saying? Like
The characteristics
being
of the
able
being
to
the
give
man
unto
to keep it.
others without receiving.
Yeah, like
shit that.
real
you know?
love.
Yeah, it's real.
Real love. I think it's important to understand that when you're unpacking your bullshit in this life and you're trying to figure out like who you are and where you stand, if your number one goal becomes being a man that's trying to find purpose, you will always stand in the path that God has for you. And he will protect you in those spaces where you're being marred by the justice system in every which way.
Right.
And like
Any system.
Yeah, and then you're asking yourself like, yo, why God? Why? I'm doing everything right. My heart is in the right place. My mind, I'm walking the right path. And it's like, just be patient. We'll figure this out, but you're gonna walk into your purpose through this shit.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna literally walk
The
into
thing in closing, I just want to say God, and just to add to what you say, God is like that friend. You know that poem about, you know, the footprints in the sand, but it's like he not just gonna make you go through it, you know, he's gonna go through it with you.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna find moments that you could look back on and laugh at, even in those hardest of times. Like to this day, I call some of my friends that I've made, some very good people that I've made behind the wall, and we laugh at things that, you know, at the time it was built on a mutual pain, a mutual struggle, but it built a dope relationship, and it created a little bit more of a foundation for me to go to and to recall some of the things that sometimes slip your mind when you get caught up living life, and that's a reminder of your worth and your value.
I always leave you with this. I want you to always allow your actions to be guided by love, your thoughts to be rooted in peace, and your life to always mature in happiness. I'm Aaron Eason,
And I'm
a.k.a.
Figueroa.
Mr. Always Good, Never Bad.
And Felony Fit.
Yo, stay with us, man. We about to unpack
Yeah, this
everything.
shit is fun. It's a real dope experience to talk to you guys and to, you know, talk to my brother and just do what we do on a daily basis in front of y'all. That's pretty dope.
Thank you.
for the opportunity.
Subscribe, please. Subscribe.